Hi there, it's Mark, and welcome to Book Ramble. This is a topic that I had no intention really of doing, and it's certainly not meant to preach. Although the title is The Benefits of Slow Reading, this is not meant to say that I have the answers. This is just something that I do. Take it as you wish, or whether it's useful or even worth considering. I never used to slow read. For most of my life, I just read quickly, and I remember being on a warship in the mid-80s, and they had a good library, and I just voraciously read whenever I was off watch or could. Wouldn't do that now, and the reason being is because, I'll give you an example. This is Lord of the Rings. I've read this countless times. Do you know, when I was talking about the book to a real nerd, far more than me, this guy could tell you, well, he could even speak some of the languages. And he said, "Oh, what did you think about Garnbury Garn?" I thought, well, I've read it so many times. Who's Garnbury? Who? Well, he's in the Ride of the Rohirrim. One of the wild men, one of the Pukula men. And I'm reading it here now. It's on page 832 of this book. "Bring news," said the wild man. "We look out from hills. We climb big mountain and look down." So, it's that kind of thing. I couldn't remember the name. I couldn't remember the character. And I think it's because I just read it quickly. Didn't take in everything. And it's a lot to remember. What I realised, and this was just before I went to university. I went to university when I was 33, late 90s. And I realised that when you read, if you don't take care, if you don't engage with the text, if you read quick, you don't really take it all in. I don't think. In this book world, booktube, we see a lot of people talking about big books. It seems to be a thing at the moment. And this is the history of the Russian Revolution by Leon Trotsky. I've done one episode. I'm actually now starting to put together notes for the second one. And it requires, I think, close attention. I would never try and read through a certain amount of pages deliberately just to read it. Very mechanistic. A couple of days ago, I read probably 2 pages. And then today, another 2. When I've got to a point where I think I'll do another episode, I will do so, but not before. And so be it. And when I went to university, I studied, in part, philosophy and theology. So Plato, Republic, and this, the Bible. With this, I could read through this in probably 3 days if I wanted to. And I did. And when it came to the lectures, I had to keep going back thinking, hang on, what was this again? Because I made a mistake, and I was taught this at the university, as any student is. Engage with the text. Highlight. Make notes. You're expected to. Yeah, you wouldn't want to do this if you're going to be passing it on to somebody else to read. But that, for myself, is what brings out the text. Close reading, slow reading, and making notes. And especially with this. So I adopted, I suppose it's been almost 30 years now, although I wouldn't have used this phrase at the time, but in retrospect I adopted a mindful approach. It emphasizes savouring each word, each phrase, and to reflect on its meaning. And by highlighting and writing in the text, I feel that I engaged more with the text to a deeper level than I would if I just skimmed read it. So I'm slow reading through this book. And it's The Picture of Dorian Gray, written by Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde. What a great name. So it actually starts off with the preface, and it talks about the artist. You then get this paragraph. But this here is one sentence. And I'll read it as though you were reading quickly. From the corner of the divan of Persian saddlebags on which he was lying, smoking, as was his custom, innumerable cigarettes, Lord Henry Wotton would just catch the gleam of the honey-sweet and honey-coloured blossoms of a laburnum, whose tremulous branches seemed hardly able to bear the burden of a beauty so flame-like as theirs. And now and then the fantastic shadows of birds in flight flitted across the long tussore silk curtains that were stretched in front of the huge window, producing a kind of momentary Japanese effect, and making him think of those pallid, jade-faced painters of Tokyo who, through the medium of an act that is necessarily immobile, seek to convey the sense of swiftness and motion. That's one sentence. If you read on, you're not going to pay attention to the imagery that really brought up, or I struggle to. So that one sentence occupied me for at least half a day. I went to work, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the imagery and so on. And similar with making notes here. The benefit of slowing down is that you can go through it and break down that sentence. So I'll read it again, but slowly. From the corner of the divan of Persian saddlebags on which he was lying. So there's a man laying down, and he's got these big pillows, like saddlebags, smoking, as was his custom, innumerable cigarettes. So we've got to imagine a pile of these cigarettes to his side in an ashtray. It's been there some time. Lord Henry Wotton, and we don't know who he is at this stage, could just catch the gleam, the honey-sweet and honey-coloured blossoms of a laburnum. Now I'd be thinking, laburnum, I know the tree, but what does it look like? I need to look it up. Whose tremulous branches seemed hardly able to bear the burden of a beauty so flame-like as theirs. But the key here is, why is he focusing on beauty? And now and then the fantastic shadows of birds in flight flitted across the long tussore silk curtains. Birds, flittering. Birds, feminine, moving here and there. Silk curtains, rich texture, that were stretched in front of the huge window. So we're talking of a rich place here. There's a lot of furnishings here. High quality. This is not a poor man's house. It's not a hovel. Producing a kind of momentary Japanese effect. Well, what does that mean? What would that be like? What does it look like? What imagery is being painted here? And making him think of those pallid, jade-faced painters of Tokyo, who, through the medium of an art that is necessarily immobile, seek to convey the sense of swiftness and motion. That's one sentence, and a lot there, that only through mindful reading, slowing down, and possibly doing some research to find out, well, what does a laburnum, is the colour anything that we should be focusing on? The imagery of swiftness, we're talking about beauty, movement, swiftness. Does this beauty fade? And so on. Is this linked to the story? And I will be making notes, possibly in the book or on one of these. Actually, probably one of these. Is that tedious? Well, at first it could be. You've got to, I guess, I had to train myself to do it. But I found I was really enjoying it. I could remember things more. It fixed in the mind. It wasn't like being in a train, looking out the window, and things are going so quick you can hardly tell what they are. No, this is a slow-moving train, and you can fix on the beauty that's outside. Same with the books. I make more of an emotional connection with the books because I read slowly. Of course, it means you've got to spend more time reading it. Which is why I never set myself an amount of books I need to read. I don't do TBRs, really, because I don't want that pressure. I can stay years with books, probably even doing this channel. I would probably take years to do this. I mean, I could just have 6 months of doing nothing but this book. I'd like it, but I think it would be quite tedious for other people. So, yeah, there is the time commitment, but also no pressure. No sense of rushing and doing your head in because you've got to finish in a certain time. Disquiet and Dragons, which is a channel I follow, he effectively said the same. He needs to slow down because he was feeling the mental pressure of trying to read books quickly. There's a website that effectively, I think it's AI generated, that talks about the benefit of doing this. And it is important. So if you write in the margins, like I've done here, Plato making an apology for Socrates, it's in the Republic here. If you noticed, I've ringed the actual passage. It's about Thrasymachus. I've also highlighted passages, and it says here, the importance of active reading, techniques like underlining key passages, writing marginalia, or taking notes to engage with the text. Small, focused reading sessions, and then breaking down with a reflection. The reason I write is because when I come back after a period of days, weeks away from the text, I can just quickly go through it and it fixes in my mind where I got up to and I can carry on reading. This is what anybody at university does. And if you've never been to university, it is useful. Really useful to do. And in fact, the more that you are making notes of, it builds in your mind that it's important. I also make it seem important if I give a circle here. More circles, the more important it is. The rereading of the text also. So having read this paragraph, I could just get as much enjoyment just reading my notes. So for instance, where then is justice and where is injustice, and in what part of the state did they spring up? It just jumps out at you. If I was to read fast, especially for this project, I wouldn't enjoy it. I don't see the point. These books have been around a long time. I don't think we need to prove to anybody that we're reading a shed load of books. As I've said before, it's not how many books you get through, it's how many books get through to you. And I could read 1,000 books, none of it make any difference to me. I could read one slowly and it makes all the difference. And I think that's the key. Also, the thing about slow reading, it's not really allied with reading slumps. But I think I learned a lesson quite early on that, and I did myself get into a reading slump for some time, and someone said to me, you're not reading the right books for you. I was trying to force myself to read popular books like everybody else was talking about, but it wasn't for me. I didn't find any enjoyment in them. And therefore, reading slow of a book you enjoy just adds and builds upon that joy in itself. It makes it more pronounced. Finish off just talking about this one. After this, I'll be, in the next couple of days, making an episode on this. Open the book. You realise that there's 3 volumes. 3 separate pieces that you could take individually. So I'm going to do 3 episodes on it. And it also turns out they were originally, under no author's name, anonymously published in 3 separate volumes. So volume 1 is a book in itself. And it starts in a way and it ends in a way. And it's taken me 3 months to get through the first volume. I've been making notes. I've put down here, for instance, battle plans on page 27. Jane should therefore make the most of every half hour in which she can command his attention. Bingley. It's a battle plan. So the notes and the slow reading and making marginalia points, I think, is the difference between enjoying a book and not enjoying it. And slowing down, you just stay in that world longer, you bathe in that world, you get to know the characters a lot better than I found in the past if I was to skim read or read it quickly. So I don't know if this is of any benefit to anybody or even makes sense, but I would say try reading slow. You might find your reading enjoyment much more pronounced, but make sure you're reading the books that's fit for you. Anyway, ta-ta for now.